What is your favorite anime?
Mine's Skrillex.
Skrillex.
I'm so distanced from human sensibilities and stuff.
Was getting caught part of your plan?
もちろんだ.
Put your tray tables up and your seat in the full upright position, because this is the Flight Plan, the official podcast of Big Guy for You Scanlations, Japan's #1 Bane posting manga scanlation podcast. Join the flight crew, Tom and Aidan, as we bant about all the anime, the manga, and the scanlation content. What are we talking about today, Tom?
We're talking about how to live your dream finally and learn Japanese.
Oh God, this has been, I mean, I've had dreams about this every night. I wake up in a cold sweat, surrounded by my harem of body pillows, and they're drenched, obviously. And sometimes they sometimes they stick together, but that's okay because my mom will clean them for me.
Well, they stick together because they have a very tight-knit bond. I assume that's what you mean, right? Metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically, yes.
Right.
They're metaphorically filthy.
No. Oh, maybe. Oh, because you have trash taste in waifus. Oh, okay. I get it now. I see where you're going.
I could never pronounce his name, but the one that the one that Seth bought, the Asphalo.
Astolfo.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. I've only ever read it. Like I've never. Yeah. I don't watch it.
That was the funniest episode. He had a actual company that wanted to sponsor him, so he's like, "Yeah, can I get a?" Oh, he wanted an Alex Jones body pillow at first.
No, he got Felix.
Oh,
that
Felix,
cat boy
right.
from
the other trap
from Dungeon Meeting Girls and Dungeons or whatever that's about.
They're all mean.
Or no, ReZero. That's that one.
Oh God,
I don't know the difference.
That's just a different sword art online, but yeah. He originally wanted the Alex Jones body pillow with not alpha brain, whatever the
ultra male vitality.
Yeah, ultra male vitality in between the cleavage of something, but it didn't work. He couldn't get a high enough resolution because you need like vectors, and he couldn't get one of Alex Jones' face, so he went with Felix instead. And then he does a review of it, and it's a filthy, disgusting pillow. He's like, don't mind the stains all over it. I was like eating dinner with it or something. It's a great video. You gotta.
We should clarify just to complete the plug. I don't know how to say his name. It's like Sazeth Tzinach or something. He's a YouTube guy.
Sazanath Tanzanich.
Just if you type in like SSETH, like Seth with 2 S's, that'll probably get you down.
Our listeners
just in case
know
you want to
who Seth is.
check out.
He's the greatest.
I'm sure they do.
Part of the Merchants Guild.
I still will, maybe like once or twice, or rather once every month or two, I'll go back and watch that one ending of his
Snake Eater,
season, and that Snake Eater music video, so good. I love it so much.
I mean, it's okay. Like he's got like the best. When I do the clips for this episode, I'm gonna clip this part in where he's talking about, he's like, awesome. He's in Africa and he's like, my father, Ubuntu Mobike. Like, I went to village, and the village I had just gone to was destroyed by a devastating rape storm. Like, because he's in Africa. And then it's like, the only way you can escape Africa is to make money from being YouTube Let's Player. Here, take my Alienware gaming rig. You can make.
There's something about like he had like an NVIDIA card made out of like coal and lemons or something.
Sticks and rocks and leaves. He made an NVIDIA graphics card, and then he made 5 USD, which is the equivalent of 6 billion Zimbabwean rupees.
Oh, you know what? Since we should probably tangent into the episode. This is a perfect segue opportunity for me right now for the corrections corner.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of your Zimbabwean
I was going to ask
rupees,
if we had any today.
I looked it up. This is really the only corrections corner piece. $1 US. Oh, hold on, no, my conversion goes the other way.
How many Norwegian kroners
is about $0.28 US dollars.
So
there's just over
2.
3 shekels per dollar.
That's a weird conversion. I don't know why.
Yeah, I was too lazy to research, like redo my search to get the other inverted one.
How many Norwegian kroners?
$1 is about 3 shekels. I don't know. Kronars are probably about 100 per dollar.
0 yen is equal to about 0 Norwegian kronars.
I've never heard that before, actually, especially not in this podcast.
Especially not in the thumbnail that we put on one of the latest clips on the YouTube channel, which is YouTube/Big Guy for you. But I was able to put, I used the clip from Norway Scans as one of the thumbnails. Yeah. It's like, oh, Norway. Those guys are great. And speaking of other rival scan companies, we have awesome, great stuff coming up later in the episode. So you definitely don't want to miss it.
This is less, I think, an instructional video and more of a not video, but whatever, more maybe like a testimonial or an explanation of how I did it. If you want to follow,
if I did
footsteps.
it, this is how.
Exactly. It does prominently feature a black guy. It's
Excellent.
Pretty much the same story.
If the body pillow fits, you must acquit.
If the body pillow is filthy, no, there's nothing that rhymes with filthy. Never mind.
No.
Yeah, then you need to be ashamed of yourself. That's how that old rhyme.
First of all, what inspired you to learn this Weebolic language?
That's actually a pretty good place to start, I guess. You know what? I was about to say like all the listeners, but I want to introduce a new thing. We should call them passengers.
Excellent.
Because
Dude,
this is
I'm
the flight
so on
plan.
board. We came up with that. You said that.
It.
You said that like last time in the post show. It's one of the greatest things I've ever heard. So absolutely, from now on, I will try and remember to call all of the fellow listeners passengers, because we're all just passengers on this wild ride, Mr. Bones' wild ride.
Yeah. Yes, and it will never end. And I think, like most passengers, I had since a young age an interest in Japanese media because I have both patrician taste and trash taste all at once. That's kind of the ultimate dichotomy of Japanese media. And I learned like kana, which is like you could call it the alphabet, I guess. Like sometime in high school, I would play like imported games, like video games. That was my jam. I was never a huge anime guy or manga guy, but video games was my thing. I never really learned a whole lot of words, just like, yes, no, menu stuff like settings.
Skeleton Warrior, things like that.
I'm still not confident that I know the word for skeleton warrior. That's always been like your meme. Like all these years, you would always say like, "Oh yeah, what's skeleton warrior?"
I don't want to spoil too many things, but you would rip the script from video games and make flashcards out of them, and I'm like, yeah, that's very effective.
Yeah.
You'll know how to say skeleton warrior in Japanese. Like that's going to really come up in conversations where you're asking where the toilet is.
Well, the joke's on you because I don't talk to humans, but I do play video games. So my my specialized vocabulary works out.
Yeah, it's like you're evolved perfectly for your environment.
Anyway, I'll date myself here and I'll say it was for a game called Ni no Kuni. No, I was in college. The game Ni no Kuni was about to come out, and I was on winter break, and I was like, oh, first of all, it's an RPG for the DS. They also had a PS3 version and a sequel that just came out a couple months ago, I think. But the cool thing about this game was that it came with a physical book. It's like a magic tome. It was the coolest purchase bonus kind of pack-in that I'd ever seen. Still to this day.
It's better than like the Call of Duty plastic statues that they give.
Well, it's a close tie, but I do think that the Ni no Kuni book will win out at the end. So I was on winter break, and I was like, you know what? It's finally time that I sit down and do this. So that's when I started properly my journey into this dark abyss.
It's finally time to do this, but you ran out of bullets, and you're like, instead, I'll learn Japanese.
And I sank into a darker abyss, the depths of which I could not have previously fathomed. Worse than suicide. That's like the catch line or the catchphrase.
You entered a state worse than death.
And I regret nothing.
Now, I'm going to give, I'm going to seg you in real quick and say, I also had similar things in high school. Like many people, watched cartoons when I got home from school. and they started showing Naruto, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And then I looked online and I was like, whoa, there's new episodes. Like, I want to see what happens next. So I watched the dub or the subbed versions on streaming sites, and I was like, oh man, I'm like 50 episodes ahead now. Maybe even more, I can't remember. I was like, but I still want to know what happens. Wait a minute, there's like manga going forward? And so, that's how I got caught in all that. So I started reading all that garbage. Started reading one more garbage manga after another, picking up like, you get like Negama and like all sorts of weird, esoteric, like really bad things. And
how is that esoteric?
It is now, because nobody knows it now. They're all talking
about it. Well, now it is, because it's old.
Yeah, and I'm old, so it's like I'm a boomer. I started learning Japanese when I was in World War II fighting the Japs.
Yeah. No, it's like... Oh, I just heard a joke the other day. I'm going to butcher it like crazy. It's like an old army vet is like talking to his grandson. And he's like, you want to hear some Vietnamese? And then it's like ching chong bing bong or whatever. And then the kid's like, that's so funny. And they're both laughing. And he's like, what does that mean, Grandpa? He's like, it means please don't kill me. I didn't find that out until I got back home, though.
Excellent.
So I assume
and on
that was your
note,
first phrase in Japanese.
Yeah, on that note, we're demonetized from YouTube now. It's worth it.
Oh shoot, I didn't think about that.
No, it doesn't matter. But, they won't do it for that.
I'm gonna start a correction corner early for next week because I just realized I did the math. If you were a boomer, or if you are a boomer, you couldn't have fought in World War II because by definition, those are kids born after World War II.
I'm an ultra boomer.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'm a time-traveling demon.
The greatest boomer.
Like Sam Hyde, yeah. I'm the eternal boomer. Well, you got like Fuentes, who's a 19-year-old boomer.
Fuentes.
Whatever.
Is he a boomer?
I mean, he's...
Oh, yeah, I get it now, okay.
It's a new trending meme I've seen where it's like he's an X-year-old boomer, where it's like it's whatever age, because boomer is in your heart.
They're gonna die out soon enough.
Yeah,
we need new boomers.
The soul of the boomer is in your heart. Like if you believe you are, if you want Social Security at the cost of the rest of the world, if you are looking out for number one in your pension, you're a boomer.
As long as I get mine, yeah, I don't care.
As long as you're willing to destroy everything that ever got you to where you wanted to be and have no guilt for it, you're a boomer. But yeah, I started reading that trash when I was in Nam, and then I was like, let me make some little flashcards out of the katakana, and I did that, and then I did the hiragana, and then I never got any further than that. What was that like spark? Because I think all of us have been to the point where it's like, yeah, I've never learned another language before, but I think I could do it. And you make the little flashcards and you do it for maybe an afternoon. Like, what was the spark for you that like, how are you so dedicated that, because I personally think it's, once you get past a certain point, you get the momentum to just go further.
Yeah.
Like, was there anything special in your case? Were you just really that motivated by a JRPG that you wanted to learn how to read it? I mean, it did even come to English, so it's like, what was the point?
No. Not the physical book and not the DS version. Only the PS3 version.
But you think that's
I think to sum it up in one word, I would say autism.
Oh, yes.
That's not enough because
our passengers
half the passengers probably also have that. Yeah. I don't know, because I had actually, truthfully, I had tried learning before that. Like what you described, I kind of fizzled out pretty quickly. I really don't know what did it this time. It was shame, probably. I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be that guy who started it and then never did it.
So you just like even if you didn't like it, you'd be the type of person that's like, well, I'm going to learn this whole language because I started it. I learned 3 vocabulary words, so I got to keep going. I got to be an expert.
No. I'm not like that with everything, but Japanese is special because I don't know, that you get a lot of people who are kind of like, the ultra weeb with the headband, and he knows 5 words of Japanese and he thinks he's the best. there's kind of like a bar that guy sets where it's like, if you're learning French, you can say, oh yeah, omelette du fromage, and people are like, oh, that's so cool, dude. I think with weebs, like, everyone can do that level kind of, and they think they're the hottest thing around. So you really have to be good. I feel like if you were to admit to someone, yeah, I study Japanese, they know that you're a weeaboo. They know that, like, you're an irredeemable human. Yeah. I don't know. My excuse, if anyone were to ever ask, if they were to find out and then ask, I would say I'm really into emaki, which are like the hanging scroll pictures. I'm not, but I've had that in my back pocket just in case all these years.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but it's like you don't have any.
Nobody knows. Nobody visits my place.
I don't have any friends. What does it matter? Like,
and nobody would know any to like call me out. It's like, oh, what do you think of Satoshi's, like crying lizard or something? It's like, oh yeah, see, nobody knows any. It's not like Mona Lisa. Everyone knows that.
You can get more realistic and say, like, yeah, I'm a big fan of Japanese literature.
No, because everyone knows.
There's like
nobody knows any Japanese literature, first of all, but everyone knows what you mean.
Yeah, there is. Well, it's like there's that. I don't think it's Asian.
Name one book.
There's a Hakuri Muramakanai, which is like 19. It's like a 19. It's a year number. It's like 1084 or something. It doesn't matter, but it's in English anyway.
Oh, it's like 1Q99 or no, 1Q84.
Yeah, it's one of those. But
I've
and
seen
she
that
has like
title
other
around.
words. I think she also does Norwegian Wood, the novel, but that's only because.
Yeah, those are the only ones anyone's ever heard of.
Yeah, exactly, and there's translated in English anyway. I'm thinking like one of the Book of Five Rings or some other old school, like the Way of the Samurai type stuff, like that type of deal.
Tale of Genji.
Yeah, something like that.
We should probably talk about actually the main topic here. And
this is the main topic.
Well, it's more like why, not how. But I guess the why is important too.
So you said you learned hiragana. Is there anything you like, any website or service or Rosetta Stone that you use to learn that?
No. I had a chart of all the kana and I copied it by hand. And then whenever I was playing a game and I saw one, I was like, oh, what's that? I would look it up on my chart that I wrote out.
Oh, that's very cool.
I mean, kana is something you can learn really quickly. Like if it takes you more than a week, you're really not trying hard enough. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like if you can't do it within a week, you're probably not motivated enough to learn Japanese. Like it's harsh, but it's kind of true. Kanji, however, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's it. They used to sell kettles of fish door to door. They come with the ice truck, man. When they would deliver your ice from the fridge.
The Cutco guy, he would come as well.
Oh, Cutco knives, yeah.
Yeah. Kanji's the big one. There's like 2,000 Chinese characters that you need to know. Really, you only need to know like maybe 1,000 for most. 2,000's the nice number.
Now, obviously, there's more than 2,000. Like, but I know 2,000 has always been the benchmark. Same kind of for if you're learning Chinese. Like, if you can learn 2,000, you probably know what's in the newspaper or enough to know without like specialized words.
No, I thought Chinese was like 6,000 for like a newspaper.
I'm
like
talking
even
for Japanese.
You need like all 2,000. I think you said Chinese.
I said like both. I was talking for both. Like it's kind of a bar.
Yeah.
It's like I feel pretty competent now at like 2,000 kanji or hiragana.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
This is a little bit of a segue, but I studied Chinese in a similar fashion that you studied Japanese, and I got to the point where I could read probably a middle school-ish level, which isn't the newspaper, but I hit that at around 2,000
kanji or kanzi.
Hanzi, yeah, which is the same thing. It's just drawn slightly different. You have the traditional and the simplified. I did the simplified because that's what they speak in mainland China.
Because you're of simple mind.
Well, talk to the Chinese about that. Talk to the communists about that.
Well, if they were in front of me, I would tell them to their face.
Yeah, well.
Traditional or death. That's what I'm all about.
Now, what kind of services or tools, techniques did you do to learn these 2,000 kanji?
The number one this is kind of a meta tool. You use this for everything. I do, at least, called Anki, Anki. And this is like a piece of software that you can make custom flashcards. It'll show them to you in a way that helps you learn. Like it'll space them out. That is, I think, the core, most important tool for learning.
It uses an algorithm technique called spaced repetition software. Is that what the acronym is? SRS?
I think system is the second S.
Yeah, that would probably make more sense. But basically, it's like, so you're looking at flashcards and you're like, well, if I get this one right, I'll put it on the back of the stack. But if I can't remember this one right away and it was kind of difficult, I'll maybe put it in the middle. And if I don't get it, I'll review it right again. So it's a systematized way of using algorithms to help you pick what pieces of like what vocabulary you're having the most problems with, and it'll make that review even quicker. It's absolutely a great piece of software. It's been incorporated, the idea of it anyway, and a lot of different things that you may be looking into. Like if you're looking into Memrise, which was my favorite, Duolingo, things like that. A very popular one is Rosetta Stone. Maybe you have some thoughts on it. I've tried to use. I've tried to use Rosetta Stone a couple times, but I never get very far because I don't think it's very. They say it's like, oh, it's the best way to learn how to speak. I didn't like the way it is. It's like a textbook where it's like, yeah, it'll teach you how to say the colors, but it's like you're not going to understand anything about it. Like I don't like it. I don't think it has any type of spaced repetition system, and you can't really get to the autistic level that I prefer when I'm, really in depth into a subject. I want to critique like every level of my progress.
Yeah, and I did try Rosetta Stone for Japanese. I think I was maybe a year into my studies. It was A, completely useless because I knew it all, and B, not fun, and C, if you hadn't studied outside of Rosetta Stone, you wouldn't be able to keep up. Because they don't really teach you writing, and what writing they do teach you, what little amount they do, it's not helpful enough. Like they don't teach you kanji, I think, at all. Granted,
no,
they might have upped their software since then, but they use it. It's an option, but they don't teach it to you. So it was kind of trash, I think, and it's expensive. It's kind of like an old meme software. Like you never hear it anymore. Yeah,
and it's like you can see it at Best Buy or Target in the software section. It's like next to that TurboTax and Microsoft Word piece of software that like people just steal. Like the only thing you can't steal is like TurboTax because it's like on the server and it updates every year. But it's like who goes and buys like a $900 piece of software like Rosetta Stone? I'm gonna buy $900 worth of Japanese
Boomers.
1 through 4. Yeah, boomers. Our core demographic.
I guess in terms of actual Japanese resources, the number one thing that I recommend people do first, this is how I started, kanji. The best way, in my opinion, to learn kanji is a book, Remembering the Kanji by James T.
Also.
Heisig. I don't know what his middle initial is, but who cares? It doesn't matter.
It's James also.
No. That won't teach you any Japanese. He's like Filipino. The book, the format of the book is it shows you all 2042 kanji that are the common use ones, the canonical ones, I guess you might call them. He doesn't teach you how to read them. He only teaches you kind of what they mean roughly and how to write them. But the main conceit, like the main crux of, or the gimmick maybe you would call it, of the book gives you like mnemonics, which is what they're called. It's like little stories to help you remember how to draw the characters and what they mean. If you've used Memrise, you're familiar with that concept. I mean, nowadays, pretty much everybody talks about that kind of concept within like the learning language sphere. So it's not new info nowadays. But back then, I think he was like the first to do it, probably. And his book is still, I mean, I used it. It's good.
Yeah, it is a very good thing. Now, does he talk about the radical system? Do you want to explain that?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's, if you look at kanji and you don't know what you're looking at, they look like random chicken scratches, right? Like just a complete weird combination of lines and shapes. But they're actually made up of like, honestly, there's probably like 200, 300 like radical
elements. So if you want to look at it, they're like the little elements of like, or the little atoms of the element. If you build in a Lego Star Cruiser, like each little block is a different shape, and that's a different radical. What a great metaphor! Might be a genius.
Or I'll do you one better. Look at a stick figure. So that's made up of a radical of a circle, a plus for like the arms and the torso, and then like a little caret sign, CARAT, that kind of caret for the feet.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be like 3 different radicals, perhaps. So you assign basically each radical has its own meaning. Some he makes up. You make stories out of them. So with that person example, you would have the radical for circle, which maybe it's a wheel or a car, we'll say, because that's a better visual. Then the plus sign, I don't know, it's a cross, right? And then the legs are a pyramid. So then you're like, well,
so the car hit
Jesus
the pyramid and he
was
died.
Driving a car. Okay, well, yeah. See,
Both of them are
some
morbid,
stupid
yeah.
story. The dumber, the better.
It really is. Yeah, that's how I learned the Hanzi was with dumb stories. Because you'll remember.
Yeah, like one of the ones I used was like Wolverine or something. Yeah, like
I remember that one. Yeah.
You could do whatever.
And you make up
His
little
were
stories.
always violent too.
Well, that probably helps. He's a psychopath. He's been reading too much manga. He needs to read some of the cute girl stuff that we scan late.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'll send him a link next time I talk to him. For me personally, I did that step first, all the kanji. I had the whole winter break, like I said earlier. So I did it all within 19 days, which is faster than is recommended. I did not retain them that well, but I got through them, and that's what counted.
That's it. It's bare minimum.
I would say, honestly, I would say maybe like 10 a day. I think that's pretty fair.
You'd learn
like,
10 new
kanji that if you
a day.
actually want to learn. Yeah, like if you're actually serious about learning, you could do that pretty easily.
Now, it's a great testament that you have risen high enough to be considered the #1 scanlation company in Japan.
Yep.
Obviously, you've risen the ranks because we're now the #1 scanlation company in Japan. And you said that you really started learning this language when you were in college. Would you recommend somebody taking a Japanese course in college or even majoring in it?
I can't really speak intelligently towards majoring. Probably not, obviously. Like, you'll have no skills when you come out of college, probably.
You'll be able to read your VNs.
I can't even make that promise. I don't think so. I don't think you could read your Chinese
probably
cartoons.
not. They don't teach you a lot.
But I took Japanese class in college for an easy A because my GPA was bad and I needed to boost it.
So you took a class that people are going to try and learn. Like, you walked in and you already knew, like, years ahead of the other students.
It was so funny. Like, there was a test, like, all the tests were really easy. They were like half a page, maybe even a third of a page. I would sit towards the front, so when he's passing them out, I would get it pretty soon, right? And like maybe like a minute or two after he finished passing them out, I just like walked out of the class after I turned in the test. It was like, because you were free to leave. It was like you had the whole session to do the test. Oh man, don't take a Japanese class if you want to learn. If you want to take it for any other reason, maybe to like feel superior to the weebs in there.
Yeah.
I mean, like in terms of hygiene and stuff, not necessarily skill, but that also does count.
There's a non-zero amount of Naruto headbands.
Yeah, that's the catchphrase. I think there was a zero amount, but we had cat ears, at least one pair in my place or in my class.
Cat ears? Is that? You think that's worse?
Yeah.
Because it was a girl, right?
Yes, and they were like remote controlled, so they could move.
Oh jeez, I didn't know they made those. But I mean,
no one else did.
That's the Naruto headband for girls.
I guess it is.
If you think about it, I had a friend who took Japanese in college as well. He was probably in a different class. I don't think you guys ever had the same class, but
no.
But I saw a picture of the graduating class of semester 1. This isn't like they didn't get degrees in it. This was like Jap 101 where they're learning Itidakimasu and all that type of Disu garbage. And it was like the Reddit meetup photo where those like fat dudes with his tits hanging out, and it's like, oh, like.
Have you seen the ones where it's a Pokemon group and then they have one where it's drawn as them as Pokemon?
Oh my god, yes. That was like an actual camp though. That was like a summer camp that they went to.
I think that's a cult.
It basically, yeah, they're like drinking the Kool-Aid at the end. Here, eat these poke muffins.
Just to kind of put a bow on the college classes stories, I moonlighted, or whatever the term is, audited level 4 as well, and because it was just going on.
Oh, so you didn't go to 1, 2, 3, 4. You just went 1, 4.
Yeah, I went 1, 4 because after one, like in between the semesters, I emailed my professor. I was like, "Hey, can I like take like 4 or something?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You don't have the credentials because you need 2 and 3 to sign up." But he's like, "You could just sit in." And I was like, "Cool."
He's like,
I think I was only like a year into it at this point.
You raise your hand and be like, when are the hand symbol quizzes? I know those really well. Cast my ninjutsu.
But yeah, don't take a Japanese course probably, unless you really want to. But don't, like I said, don't do it expecting to learn. Take it to have fun or whatever. Kanji's the big thing, and then after that, some people do these at the same time, which is probably what I recommend. If you're not going to autistically blitz through kanji, then I would say probably do like, maybe 10 kanji a day, and then also start with the actual meat and potatoes, the vocab, the sentences, the grammar, the stuff that you would actually start with if you were learning, say, French. The way that I would go about doing it, I don't know if it's a good way or not, but it's the way I've done it. I think I did I downloaded a pre-made deck on Anki, just like 600 basic vocabulary words. And I went through those, I learned them. And then pretty immediately after that, I jumped into doing sentences. And that's like kind of like, that's the school of thought that I subscribe to. Yeah. I should say, actually, since this is very uninformative, to be honest, and very kind of stream of consciousness, that I pretty much got all of my info when I was studying from alljapaneseallthetime.com. So I would definitely suggest that you guys go read that site. Be careful of any part where he's trying to sell you something, kind of overprices everything. But if you just read like the core articles, you'll get a nice info dump, a very solid base to work with.
It's really good, and it's honestly not just even for language learning. Like, he has some really interesting articles just about the concept of learning and the concept of, performing actions and immersing yourself in an idea and in a subject. And it's very fascinating. And it's also, he's a hilarious talker. He kind of reminds me of like the South African version of Douglas Adams. It's kind of hilarious.
I think he's from like Ghana or something. Is it South Africa?
Well, yeah, a little bit of.
Wait, no, I
don't know what it is,
but
maybe. But he's like from Africa, and he ended up immigrating to Japan, and he speaks it fluently. He's got a job there. And if you know anything on how difficult it is to actually immigrate into Japan, which you probably do because all the passengers are filthy weeps, but it's incredibly difficult. And the fact that he's black makes it even crazier. They're even stricter on that immigration.
Affirmative action.
Yeah.
This guy's name is Katsumoto, and he's the black guy that I alluded to earlier. just to tie that up. I don't want any listener, any passenger to think, hey, there was a plot hole in this episode. Yeah, so Katsumoto's basic philosophy, at least at the time I was reading, was all about sentences. So the idea here is that mining sentences is the terminology. So you're reading, say, a manga. And it's all real Japanese too. It's not like textbook Japanese. So you're reading, say, Yotsuba. You're like, whoa, look at this sentence. I know like 90% of this sentence. So you take that, like the whole sentence, and you put it in like an Anki card for like the answer. You say like, you can really put whatever notes you want, but like I generally will just put like whatever trouble words that I have. I'll just put those as like the answer kind of. So if the sentence is like, I like cool cats, and I don't know the word cool, then like I'll put in I like cool cats as my sentence, and then like the answer to that card will say like cool equals sugoi desu,
It's basically context clues, which is how we native English speakers learn English for the most part, a new word there.
Yeah, it's true. And his whole meme, you might call it, was 10,000 sentences, because he claims that, I believe this was the claim, it's been like 10 years since I read his stuff, but his claim was that at around the 10,000 sentence mark, that's when he considered himself fluent. And he says he did it all in 18 months. I don't know. That seems very very far fetched to me. But
It's very ambitious.
you know,
I wouldn't set that as a
don't
goal
shoot
for yourself.
I mean, well, shoot for it, but don't expect it. So yeah, that's the long and short of sentences. In terms of places that I like to do it, like I said, I'm a video game guy. My main place that I got sentences, at least starting out, was lltvg.com. So I think that's learning languages through video games. It's like a wiki style site. Nobody used it, but I thought it was really cool. It had maybe like 10 contributors, I think, ever. Run by some furry guy, you know. Other than that, he seems like a cool enough dude, I guess. It has like text dumps of video games with user translations, which were typically pretty literal. You know, that was by design as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have like the English and the Japanese right next to each other. So it was like really easy to like find new sentences that worked for you. I thought it was a really cool site, probably still up, but very inactive, I would imagine. Check it out if you like video games. Other than that, I just find normally text dumps. Yeah, I normally find text dumps, typically of RPGs. And even to this day, I still mine sentences. Like, been working on most recently was Xenosaga 1.
Is that the one where they're all no, it's Star Ocean, where they're basically in like the Matrix simulation. They're like, what, we're all a video game? What?
Yeah, this is the one where it's all religious. This is gonna be spoilers for Xenoblade 2, guys. Don't listen if you care about that game.
Didn't that come out like 20 years ago?
No, that's the one with Rex and Pyra that just came out last year.
I was thinking Xenogears. See, you're mixing me up.
No, I'm about to spoil Xenoblade, so you understand what I'm talking about.
All right.
You know, at the end of Xenoblade 2, where they have that. Oh shoot! Actually, I'm not going to spoil anything. You know, Pyra's her little cross-shaped crest thingy.
Yes.
That's shaped after like the main MacGuffin of the Xenogears or Xenosaga game, whichever it is. This is terrible. I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we don't either. But that's just a game theory.
That's a theory, a game theory. I love calling not game related theories game theories. Like, let me tell you my game theory about this.
And that's when Lee Harvey Oswald was shot. But that's just a theory, a game theory.
What's your game theory on 9/11? Well, you see.
Ooh, that goes deep. We're rootless cosmopolitans.
Hey, I'm not going any deep at all. I'm a shallow guy. Grammar stuff, I don't know how I learned that, to be honest. I have one book which is called All About the Particles. It's a physical book, and it's kind of like, I guess, a dictionary of particles, which are like explicit grammar parts of speech markers. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it. So like they go after a word to indicate what part of speech it is. Like if it's like the object or the subject, that kind of thing. So that's a pretty good book, and that'll teach you. It's more like a reference handbook. So like you use it whenever you see a particle, you don't know what it means, you look it up. That was pretty helpful early on. Just reading a lot, you start to pick stuff up.
That's probably the best way to learn any language, is reading the stuff. That's
Oh yeah.
Now, I don't know if you're prepared to talk about this at all. There's the L1, L2, R2 type deal. Do you have anything to say about that?
No. You mean like listening in one language and reading the same text in the other language?
Yes.
I've never done that. I've tried that like once.
I've heard it's really helpful, but I didn't do it myself.
I've never gotten it to work out. I think it doesn't work as well for languages that have vastly different sentence structures. But you technically do that when you watch anime, because you're listening in Japanese and you're reading the English. And that does actually help me, but it took me a long time to get to the point where that could be useful. All of my studying is explicitly text only. I don't speak, I don't listen. Those are the only two. I read, and I don't even write, to be honest. I just read. So that's my expertise area.
So let's answer.
So anime is
let's answer the number one question that all of our passengers have, and it's how long studying Japanese is it going to take for me to read some shonen manga and watch some anime without the subtitles?
Well, anime, it's harder for me to answer because I've never really tried it, to be honest. I still do subtitles. I'm sure I could watch most shonen stuff. I mean, I wouldn't know like obscure terminology, but in terms of manga or reading whatever you read, you have the advantage of it's at your pace. You could take an hour to read one sentence, and it's
Hooked
not
on
going
phonics.
Your stupid kid can read too. Hooked on phonics. TM. Oh, that got me off my train of thought.
I'm asking how long.
You can go at your own pace. Yeah, you can go at your own pace when you're reading. You can look up whatever word it is. Like, you don't have to worry about mishearing a word because you can look at it right there. I mean, I love reading. I use kanji as a crutch. That's how powerful it is, and you can't do that when you're listening. So anime's tough. Reading, I would say, depends on your pace. Maybe even, I think within a year. I mean, it's not comfortable like you would read a book, but you would be able to struggle your way through with like a dictionary. Not struggle, but
it's a bit of work. It's like going to the gym, basically. It's like it will take cognitive effort. Like I can sit down and read a novel in an afternoon, but you would never be able to do it if you were just learning English. It is something that it's like a muscle. You will have to work at it.
Yeah, and I have to say too that what you read, different things that you read have different levels of difficulty. For example, I still struggle to read like books in Japanese because there's a lot of like descriptive language and all that stuff. For whatever reason, I've just never used that kind of brain muscle. But like manga, it's all kind of easy-ish.
It's Skeleton Warrior.
Video games are pretty easy. I don't know if it's necessarily vocab. I think it's more sentence structures that you just don't encounter.
It's just easier because they know anime's for children. It's like
no, because it's also it's young adult literature. Like even something like a Harry Potter is a lot harder for me to read than say JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And I haven't really figured it out, but I think it's descriptive language, which is fundamentally different than manga, which is mostly talking.
Well, I think this has actually been pretty helpful for everybody that's looking to study Japanese. I don't know if you passengers know this, but we've actually been commissioned by Pearson's learning agency. This excerpt will be you're going to have a whole class period dedicated to this podcast episode in your learning auditorium or wherever you're listening to this. So hopefully by the end of this podcast, you will be able to speak fluent Japanese. That is a 100% money back guarantee. So be sure to send in the shekels, send them all into the Patreon, you get into the paywall. I think
so you pay us on the Patreon, but for your money back like warranty offer or whatever, you have to contact Pearson directly. Since they're the parent company, you just have to go through the official channels.
Or
but
your
you pay
university.
us directly. It's kind of it's wonky. Yeah, or the university.
Yes. Or you can go to Starbucks and ask for free coffee because that apparently works.
Only for some passengers.
Only for some. You know who you are. Now now that kind of shows that not all of our passengers are useless, which is the key word that we've been using for these past couple episodes.
What?
It's ponketsu. Ponketsu. What is it? Which is
Ponkotsu, and this is not a decent seg-u. We're doing the manga minute. Boom, hard fast cuts, baby. Boom, boom.
The manga minute, where we're talking about I didn't write down the name of the manga. This episode.
I didn't either because that's normally something you do.
I'm gonna. I got it.
It's Isekai Tenso Sareta.
It's close.
something.
Today, this week's
Shinigami Death Game.
Let me do it. This week's manga minute is Isekai Death Game ni Tenso Setere Tsurai? Something like that. Anyway, it's an adorable type of manga where it says Isekai in the title, but it's not really that. So let me set the stage for you. There's the salaryman. He's overworked, and he takes a break, and he's sitting on the balcony smoking a cigarette, and he's like, oh man, I wish I was just dead at this point. I have so much work to do. And boom, he gets teleported to like a demon world arena, and you see like the Grim Reaper faced over with the scythe and the skull mask over, and they're like, "Oh, welcome to the death game. You've all wanted to die, so here's your chance. The last winner will survive." And basically he trolls her to let everybody go back to the real world, and he ends up winning.
Hold on. It's not enough to say he trolled her. He used the power of, I would say, autism and bureaucracy and rule bending, because he was very nitpicky. He's like, what are the rules? And she's like, last guy standing gets to go home. And he's like, what do you mean standing? Is everyone else, do they have to be dead? And she's like, yeah, they have to be dead. He's like, well, who checks that they're dead? Who confirms this? That kind of thing.
It's very like bureaucratic lawyer type. Now, this is actually, so anyway, the story goes on, and he ends up winning that. He's like, hey, you should apologize to me. In fact, I didn't even want to die. I was just being hyperbolic with my, like, size and stuff on the thing. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. This is my first time, like, doing a death game. So a death game is the death gods collect the souls of the losers and the winners, like, at the end of the thing. But it's like, you totally messed up with this death game. And she's like, oh, it's my first little time. He's like, okay, so take off your mask. And it's... guess what? Like what we've all come to know and love in our Japanese anime. It's an adorable little girl.
Who would have guessed?
Yeah, who would have ever known? And underneath the death god robes, she's in a little skull bikini. So it's like the most perfect type of thing. In fact, this is probably the thumbnail on the clip that we're using. So it's the best. The stories goes on. There's only a couple chapters out now. I think there's probably 5 or 6 chapters out, and it goes through different death games. So he ends up he gets roped into some other games and like accidentally, but it's the same little death god. And eventually he gets fed up and he's like, hey, I need to talk to your manager. Like, I'm upset. Like, you keep screwing around with me. I don't want to be in any more of these death games. And so he becomes not friendly, but acquaintances with the higher up death gods. And then like next chapter he goes and he gets hit by a bus and like a truck sama and gets isekai'd for
what?
Real. Yeah, you didn't read all those chapters.
I've only read two chapters. Yeah, because I figured that would be enough to get the gist all, and I didn't want to read all 5.
It's so good. Chapter 3, he gets isekai'd by truck sama, and he wakes up and it's a demon, which is not one of the Shinigami death gods. Is like it's another faction, and they're like, oh yeah, so your role here is traditional in this world. Like, you have to make it great and rule, and the ruler of this world lives, and everybody else is like, it's like a death game, but it's an isekai. And he's like, nah, this is dumb, like, I already know. And she's like, how do you know about the Shinigami? And he calls him there because he has their cell phone number now, so he pages them up, and he's like, and the demon's like, oh my god, how is this guy? It's like, you must be. He's like, I know all about this, I've already won 3 death games. It's like, you've won 3 death games? Like, and it's like, you must be the strongest soul in the world, but obviously he's not. It's fantastic.
I like that trope of like a guy who's like too cool, not just too cool for like whatever shenanigans are going on around him, but he's above it all. Like, he doesn't have time. He's a busy office worker.
Yeah, he's like, it's like children. He's like, he's treating these death gods like they're children, and it's hilarious. Yeah. The chapter after that, this is probably all spoilers, but it's still fun to read it. So I'm not like, it's not a plot heavy twist. I'm not telling you that L dies. The next chapter, angels. So we've got the 3 factions now. So there's angels trying to recruit people, souls. There's the demons, and then you got the Shinigami, and they work in like a 3-way rock paper scissors type of Fire Emblem trifecta. And they go all against each other, and it's a very fun, lighthearted manga. It's done by the people that do Ahiron-san, which is, that little shy girl that doesn't know how to talk to people. I don't know if you've probably read that. It's a great manga if you want to read it for yourself.
Nobody knows what that is.
The passengers know because it's adorable.
Your cartoons.
It's like
your childish, weird. Probably I bet she has a fang, and I bet it's like a rom-com.
This guy doesn't do fangs, and that one's not really a rom-com because there's no romance. It's just calm. Ahiron-san is just kind of a comedy. like a slice of life, like light stuff. This one, like the main girl in here, awesome. It's the same type of like the main character from Aharen San mixed with the tsundere death god from the world God only knows, and like a sexier bikini. It's like the best. Like it's like really good. It's like really good. You got to read it just for that.
And to me though, she struck me as run-of-the-mill ponkotsu, to revitalize that term again.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of the charm, I think.
Actually, I don't know what main character you were referring to, but she seems kind of useless, like in general, kind of one-dimensional though. You're saying like there's more to the character after chapter 2?
Slightly, but probably not that much. Like just enough to like be like because a useless death god is, you know, kind of cute. Like because it's it is. It's subversing the tropes. It's like, oh, there's the god of death. It's like her for like there's a whole chapter that follows her and in the Shinigami world, which is just basically like the mirror world of our own. They've got skyscrapers and buildings and everything looks very nice and clean, and they're just doing like little office things. You know how in Japan how they do like the office like fitness things in a group beforehand. It's all very weird, and they're like, yeah, like we're gonna work hard today, like yeah, hurrah. That type of thing, and it's fun. That was a boring chapter, but because I like the things where the main character uses his bureaucratic autism to defeat demons and things like that. Mm-hmm. I think that's always the best thing. Best. I definitely recommend this manga. It's adorable and great and kind of funny, and it's a little bit of a twist. It's on what you would normally expect. It's probably worth your time. There's only 5 chapters out right now. It's actually done by our from now, so we like to
we're issuing another fatwa.
We like to issue these fatwas on our rival scan company, Mo Panda Scans.
Probably Moe, don't you think?
Moe Panda Scans, the rival scan company that is our arch rival. They started around the same time of us, I think. You know,
really?
They have. I don't know. I think it was 2018, but it was probably several months beforehand. And they're also doing things that are probably more
popular.
Yeah, that's probably the word I was going to use. Also, probably more ecchi. But
ecchi.
Yeah, and which you can tell with like the skull bikini in this one. Like that's fantastic.
Yeah, true.
Why would you not click on that? That's like the number one draw to that. But anyway, they have a bunch of great mangas that they're translating. I've read some of the other things that they've translated, then I was like, hey, I wonder what else this group has translated, because I was reading this one. I was like, oh, I've read like 3 of these mangas. They also do another manga that I think we might want to do in another manga minute some other week, which is 5,000-year-old vegan dragon, which is a little pacifist dragon who gets into all sorts of shenanigans. That'll have to be a teaser for another episode that I'm sure you'll enjoy.
Well, we can't pump them up too much as our new rivals. I mean, Next thing you know, they're going to have like the number 2 Japan podcast about whatever we talk about.
Well, in addition to issuing the fatwa against them, where we will fight them to the death on religious grounds, we can also extend an invitation if they'd ever like to come on and talk about their scanlation stuff. We'd be happy to host them and say hello. So this is a cordial invitation to the arena of death.
To give them the big guy bump.
The big guy bump, yeah, absolutely. So we will.
Even though I think they get more views than we do. But,
by a lot.
That's okay.
By a factor of thousands.
No, not that bad.
No, it's not that bad, but they do have some chapters.
Maybe like 10s.
Well, okay.
How many chapters have they put out? Do you know?
It's maybe like 5 more than us, but it's on like several different. It's on several different manga, more trendy stuff, and I see them advertised everywhere. Probably not by them, but by other people in one-page threads and things like that. That's why I think we're gonna do really well with Sword Girl, or Swordless as I like to call them, because it's super adorable, and I think I can spam that through all the one-page threads. So if you see any one-page threads where you see a bunch of that, it's probably me. Say hi. Say, hey,
hi.
I saw your podcast. I see you shilling for that. It's like, yep.
Let me join in by calling you out.
Yep. And then it'll be meta, because we'll give a wink to each other. I'll send you a little winky emote and be like, hey.
Check your DMs for the wink.
Yo, hit me. I'm going to slide in those DMs.
Well, where can they DM us?
You can find the YouTube videos and the clips we run. We put out a bunch of videos every week on the YouTube channel, which is Big Guy for You. That's the number 4 and the letter U. Or you can just go into YouTube and type in the Flight Plan Podcast, and that'll be the number 1 thing. Or the Big Guy for You account with the cool logo. Definitely notice that. We're also on RSS feeds and Anchor.fm, the flight plan. You can find us. I don't think you can find us on iTunes. Maybe you can. I still haven't checked that, but you can definitely find us.
Yeah, we should probably check.
Yeah, before I keep saying it every week. But you can find us on any other podcast search engine by just typing in the Flight Plan Podcast or something like that.
You can read the manga probably on any site, but I upload to MangaDex. I don't have any preference if you read it there or not, but I do read the comments there. I don't necessarily read comments anywhere else.
Yeah,
and let's see.
That's one point that I do want to point out. If you want a reply to your comment, definitely leave a comment on the YouTube or the MangaDex. If you want to reply, I reply to all of them on YouTube, so be sure to do that.
Yeah, and I pretty much reply to anything that warrants a reply on MangaDex. And I'm pretty quick generally because I'm often bored at work and I check. There's also gab.ai. That's where I post links to all the manga, like download links, podcast links, whenever we have releases of either kind. I think I'm gonna, I can't think of the English word for it. Revive the no, I think I might revive the Twitter and we might use it. I don't know. It's there. If you send me DMs, I'm not gonna see them yet.
We can set it up so we mirror the tweets. Like we should probably just do that.
Yeah, probably. Do you want to look into that? Well, we can talk about this after we crash this podcast with no survivors.
Is that it? Is that the end?
Yeah. Why not? You want to crash it?
dude, I'm ready to like crash into this mountainside. Like I was gonna wait.
Safety vest.
Yeah, it assumed the crash position. I was gonna wait till the pilot goes into the restroom and then lock the bulkhead door and then just.
It's a good way to do it.